Hi everyone, Nathan here from JS Power Sports, and today we're going to talk about putting a 21 style trim system onto an older Krash jet ski. And it's going to consist of coming with a new cable. It's going to have this pulley system here, this bracket here, a couple longer bolts, and then you're going to have nuts for each side of where the cable attaches. Let's go have a look at the parts. The parts included in your new 21 trim system kit will be these two longer bolts, the trim bracket itself here, the nuts and washers that will go on both sides of where the cable goes through it. Here's the pulley system, laid out how it goes in. You're going to have a bearing that goes into the pulley, and a screw, and then a spacer that goes on the back side here. There's a raised section on this that goes to the inside, so it's touching right against the bearing. This is the cable guide, which you can drill and tap the holes. I recommend only professional people do this. Otherwise, just buy a whole new trim ring that already has that done and put it in. That's it. We're going to go get it installed now. And here's our 2019 that already has a trim assist bracket on it. And if yours does not, this would normally be attached down here is all. We're going to go ahead and start by unclipping these, which is they're just spring loaded. Now those are off out of our way. I've got a couple of these loosened up already to make the video shooting a little faster. We're going to go ahead and remove one of these bolts. You do not have to remove both of them, just one. There's going to be a washer that's going to fall out when this comes out. And now this will slide right off of here. Now we're going to remove this screw here and this screw here so that we can get the trim ring out. We're going to take this bracket off as well here. Here's everything disassembled, and this bracket here will need to be put onto the trim ring, which I recommend having a professional drill and tap it if you're going to go that route. Or for us here today, we've chosen to buy the separate one that I stated before, which will bolt right in. It's a good idea to use some blue Loctite on the threads here, and then a little bit of grease around the head of this bolt and also the bushing. We're going to go ahead and install the trim and steering nozzle back onto the pump here. That way it's a little more stable while we're doing the rest of the parts here. And we're just going to hook this one side over. This side here is going to get a little washer in between these two, and then the bolt through it right here. I got to put the camera down to be able to do this. I'm shooting by myself today. And now we're going to remove the ride plate so we have better access to getting the cable through that tight little section right there. And now we're going to remove the 4 pump bolts, these long bolts here. Take note of the placement of any shims that you might have, because they will need to go back into the same spots they were at. And this one has one right up there. Now we're going to remove the water lines and pull the pump. There'll be 4 bolts just like this that need to be removed. And then you'll carefully slide it straight out the back because there is a shaft attached. And now we're going to loosen this nut up right here so that we can get access to sliding the new cable in and out. And now we're going to remove everything off of the trim cable. Now, don't just go pulling this through. We're going to want to attach a string or a wire or something so we can easily feed this back through, pulling the new cable at the same time. Now I've got a towel laid down over the engine bay here, and we're about ready to remove this screw here and this screw here so that we can clip off the zip ties inside holding this cable, which we'll be disconnecting here as well. And we'll be cutting this zip tie right here. You can see the routing of this cable. I'll go ahead and pop this out of down here. Not sure if I can do this with one hand. Now from the top here, I'm going to tape up these two cables together with kind of this position that you can see my finger tapping on here. And hopefully that will be strong enough, taping that up, to be able to pull it down through gently and right on out the back. Here we are, all taped up, and we're ready to gently pull it through. With this all taped together, it's a little too thick to go down through the tube, so we're going to go ahead and untape it at this point, because the last bit of sliding it down through that tube is fairly easy. Okay, we've taped it up just the very end with the cable end right here, just a couple inch section, and hopefully this will feed down through now. And we ran into a small hiccup here where the old trim cable was much thicker, and here's the seal, and it's going to be too big for this one here, so we may have to use 2 seals on it or go to some O-rings. I'm going to check into this. Okay, so we've figured out a way to get this to seal up here pretty good. We're going to take the original seal, and we took a piece of 1/4 inch hose and cut it about a 1/2 inch and slid it down the middle so that we can wrap this around the cable and then pinch it in tight, slide it up into here. And of course, if you want 100% seal on the whole bit, then you might want to slap some silicone seal around that, but this should do the trick for most of it. And there's what it looks like. I think it will seal for us. We've hooked the cable positioner back up on here. It's kind of like a big washer. Now we're ready to thread our nut right back up on here. Now we've slid our pump back into place, and we're ready to put in our shims back where they were, and then hook up all the hoses again, and the 2 bolts on this right side. The 2 bolts on this left side are going to be the longer ones with the bracket. We'll hook that up here in a second. Okay, now we're getting ready to install the bracket so that we can bolt it up to the pump here kind of at the same time. And I'm going to start off with a nut. Then a washer. Then the bracket. It's going to go through this bigger hole here. And now we'll follow up the other side with a washer, then a nut, and then we'll get this side ready. Okay, this is where the adjustments should wind up close to if it compares and goes in the same way as it does on the 21s. With the bottom adjuster barely in and the top adjuster almost all the way in. Now we're going to finish reassembling the pump just like we took it apart. Go slow and careful and easy. Make sure that you lube up these bolts before you put them in so that they'll easily go in. Start them with your fingers so you know you've got the threads correctly, nothing gets cross-threaded, and then snug them up. And then make sure you hook up all of your hoses just the way they were. Go slow and careful. Make sure everything's done the way it's supposed to be. And I would look over things twice before you put the ride plate back on. Getting ready to install the pulley. We're going to drop the bearing down into it. Make sure it goes in this way because that's what keeps it on there. If you put it on the other way, this will slide right back off. So this goes like that. This bolt goes through here. The spacer goes on, the little recessed area goes on the inside. Just like that. I put a little dab of blue Loctite on here and I'm ready to screw it in now. And next we'll install the cable, then the cable guide right here. Here we are with everything back together. And one final step before we're complete will be to lube the brand new cable. They do not come lubed from any manufacturer, so make sure you lube it. These are available as well as the trim kit and all that stuff available on our website, jspowersports.com. Hit like, hit subscribe, we'll bring you some more videos.